اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك ورسوله النبي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما واجعل التفرق بعده تفرقا معصوما. اللهم ولا تدع فينا شقيا ولا محروما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير for coming. Today will be our first session in Seerah, inshallah. And I will do my best with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with the barakah and the blessings of the dua, inshallah, from your side, inshallah, ya Rab. Now, to let this session be one of the very beautiful sessions that everyone would love to attend, I will try to do it as easy as I can. But however, I will do it in some academic way, so that my aim for months and months, you will be able to have a solid piece of knowledge about Seerah. Okay? Not just the traditional way, just a piece of information from here and there. No. I'm planning, inshallah, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to help you to establish a methodology, how to understand. While we are in the process of knowing about the Seerah, we will be gaining the knowledge about the Quran and about the history and about the fiqh and about the manners of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. While we are in the process, we will know about books, we will know about methodologies, we will know about battles, problems, psychology. Because Seerah, it's something has to do with something like encyclopedia. Now, when I say Seerah, simply they say the biography of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Actually, it's not with that simple. Now, one of the first things we need to know in our first session today, what is the difference between Seerah and Sunnah or Hadith Nabawi? Because this is a very well-known terms. We know the word Seerah and we know the word Sunnah. Are they the same? Is one of them part of the other or not? Now, in a very simple way, and by the way, now my way I'm going to about 10 different references. I pick and choose and make my own style, and sometimes I read maybe 10 pages, I just take just 2 simple pieces of information for you. So to save the time, I will not do it very academic. I will not say, for example, Sheikh Muhammad al-Ghazali says, and Sheikh Diya al-Umari says, XYZ says. I will not use this way. Sometimes I will decide to take an opinion for whatever reason after doing my research, and I will decide just to give it to you as a final fruit. Just you will swallow it in an easy way, because the time does not allow me, and this is not a university. Plus, you have the different ages. We have 10 years and we have, I don't know, 70? Do we have 70 or 60 here? Okay? No one will admit. And anyway, we have between 15 and 60 plus at least. So I will do it as much as I can in a simple way. طيب? Now, the first, inshallah, piece of information. What is the difference between Seerah and Sunnah? Linguistically, Seerah means the way, Sunnah means the way. By the way, both of them are so close from each other in the dictionaries, in the lexicons. But as a terminology, be careful. Now, like a pause. When I say terminology, we need to educate ourselves about the following thing in our great Islam. If you want to be a student of Sharia knowledge, you need to fix in your mind that in many types of knowledge, you need to distinguish between lughatan and istilahan, lughatan, istilahan, lughatan, istilahan. This is a very important thing in Islam. Lughatan means, what does this word mean in the language originally before Islam? How Arabs used to use this word. Istilahan means as a terminology. Terminology means this word used to be used in a way. When Islam came as a new religious system, a system of life, Islam, by the commandment of Allah, through the Quran or through the Sunnah, used this word in a specific way. So it was taken from the linguistic into the terminology. So when you use it as a religious term, it means such and such. I will give you a very quick example. Sama yasumu sawman. What does it mean? Linguistically means to stop doing something. Al-imtina'. In the language, for example, Arabs before Islam, if someone decided to stop talking with someone because he's angry from him, part of the possible used terms is what? لَأَصُومَنَّ عَنِ الْكَلَامِ مَعَكَ, which means I will stop talking with you. It's part of the language. Sama بمعنى ايش? Stop doing something. Or decided not to do something. Now, Islam came, Allah decided to use this with a specific imtina, with a specific stopping from doing something. Sawm as a terminology to stop eating and drinking and having the close relation between husband and wife from the sun or from the Fajr up to the Maghrib in a specific days. We call them the month of Ramadan, every day for the full month of Ramadan as an act of worship. As a terminology, Sawm means this specific meaning. As a language, such and such. طيب, Salah. Salah in language means da'a, supplication. Just when you say, if you call someone, okay, it's called Salah. If you make a prayer like supplication, it means linguistically Salah. In Islam, as a terminology, doing a specific manner of dua, plus recitation of the Quran, plus doing the ruku' and the sujood in a specific way, specific times, specific manners, with specific conditions, having the wudu and doing to the qibla, we call it what? Salah. Okay? Now, this is called lughatan and istilahan, linguistically as a terminology. Now, the word Seerah linguistically means the way. The word Sunnah linguistically means the way. And sometimes when you look at the dictionary, they explain Seerah by Sunnah in the language. As a terminology, we have a huge difference between them. Now, please focus, because if you know the differences in definitions, you will be half alim. Be careful. And please take it from me. No definitions, no prohibitions. Have you heard this in English? No definition, no prohibition. It's an English terminology. It means if you do not define something, no one can tell you that this is wrong or right because no definition. If I told you, hey, don't do, okay, don't do what? No problem, but don't do it. Don't do what? Regardless, but please don't do it. Okay, I will not do it, but what is it? Regardless, ya akhi, but don't do it. Ya ammi, define it. Tell me what is it? شو don't do it. What is the definition of don't do it? يا عمي بغض النظر. زي تبع شفيق يا راجل، تعرف شفيق يا راجل؟ هاي ما بيعرفوها غير above 40s. شفيق مين؟ شفيق يا راجل. يا راجل شفيق. طبعا I untranslatable يعني. I need to. It's impossible to explain to you. جيل كامل تربى عليها شفيق يا راجل هاي. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. Please, fathers, explain to your kids what do I mean by Shafiq ya Rajil, okay? Please, because it will be, it's a huge deep culture. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. Linguistically and as a terminology, Seerah and Sunnah. Let's focus in the terminology. When I say Sunnah, It's the way of the Prophet, which includes what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, did, acted upon, reacted towards. ما ورد عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قول أو فعل أو تقرير. Whatever reached us from Prophet Muhammad about something he said, or he did, or he acted because of something, or he reacted because of something. This is all called what? Sunnah. Sunnah, not seerah. Forget that. I'm talking about now Sunnah. When I say as-Sunnah al-Nabawiyyah, in this Sunnah it is said such and such. It is proved in this Sunnah that such and such. We are talking about ahkam shar'iyya. We are talking about rulings. We are talking about teachings. We are talking about halal and haram. We are talking about permissible and not permissible. We are talking about what you are allowed to do, what you are not allowed to do. So the area of Sunnah is what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Prophet, be careful, after prophethood, after he received the revelation. What he said as a prophet, what he did as a prophet, what he acted, reacted, he admitted, he accepted, he rejected, he commented, all of this narrated to us in what we call al-Hadith al-Nabawi al-Sharif. Hadith and Sunnah, more or less, in our session is the same. When you hear the word Sunnah or Hadith, we are talking about what? Altogether, what the Prophet said, did, acted, reacted, agreed upon, disagreed with, and it contains what we know as teachings, rulings, in another word, halal, haram, mubah, accepted, not accepted. So this is the area of what? Sunnah. Right. The area of Seerah, the timeline is much more bigger. Seerah contains something in general and contains something in specific. In specific, it contains the history of the time, the pre of the coming of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and the time which covers before his birth. Yani in Seerah, we talk about the history of Arabs, maybe tens or hundreds of years before the coming of Prophet Muhammad. And we talk in more details about the few years before he was born. And we talk about the 40 years before he became a prophet. Now, 40 years before prophethood, plus in specific, some specific years about Abdul Muttalib, Abu Talib, what happened when Ibn al-Dhabihain, the relation, something. We have a very important things before even his birth. It's part of the seerah. But we do not take ahkam shar'iyya. There's no such as, because Abdul Muttalib, before the birth prophet, did such and such, therefore in Islam we are not allowed to, no. This has nothing to do with halal and haram. You see, so the first thing you need to know, now the timeline of seerah is more wider than the sunnah, because it includes, number one, all the time from his birth to his prophethood, and contains before him in details, and it contains generally his lineage and relation with all prophets and messengers from Adam. Some people, ulama of the seerah, before they start talking about the seerah, they need to highlight that this prophet is the seal of a long chain of Anbiya and prophets. So it's mentioned part of the what? The seerah. So when we talk about the seerah, we talk about history, we talk about a lot of details outside of halal and haram. Plus, now, seerah, after, now, let's talk, now this is, seerah covers this timeline, before. After he became a prophet, still we have seerah and sunnah. Are you with me? Here comes now, he started being a prophet. Zero now. Okay, while he's a prophet, everything he said, he did, he acted is part of what? If we described the events surrounding him Seerah. يعني, for example, in Sunnah we are concerned about the hukum. Is this allowed or not allowed? Haram and halal. طيب, if someone would like to describe the social status of the Romans when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent his message as a prophet, to be part of what? The Seerah. Now, if someone wanted to explain the social life of a certain era, of a certain group of people, it has nothing to do directly with Prophet Muhammad's commandments. This is part of what? Seerah. So this is, now I'm trying to keep distinguishing in your mind between Sunnah and Seerah. Now, so far, is it clear? Right. Plus, now the most important point which I finish the differences between Sunnah and Seerah. Sunnah, in terms of the content, is much, much more rich. We have tens and hundreds and thousands of hadith, highly studied, highly filtered, highly judged, worked upon with what we call ilm al-jarh wa al-ta'dil and ilm al-hadith, the science of the men, the filtering system, the chain of the narrators, which means in Sunnah we have what we call sahih, da'if, we have what we call mutawatir, we have the sound, we have the weak, so we can distinguish, because at a certain point, if this text has been approved that it was said by Prophet Muhammad and contains something that says that this is haram, it means what? Haram. So we can't play with this, we can't tolerate. So therefore, the more focus was put by thousands of scholars on Sunnah, which is more limited in terms of the time, less covering events, more deep in contents, more studied and high credible. Because it has to do with halal and haram. Now, Seerah covers more events, more history, wide timeline, less important, less studied, and contains somehow weak, and sometimes mawdu', and sometimes it's just a history, and I can't depend or rely on anything. So therefore, the one who does not distinguish between these things, and when he read a historical narration about something was happening by XYZ, such and such, is part of the Seerah, without tahqiq, without special scholars to tell you that this narration is sahih or da'if or who said it or whatever, he might be confused and doing a lot of harmful things. So be careful when you need to distinguish between you read a book in Seerah and a book in Sunnah. Not everyone should be concluding ahkam or verdicts from the Seerah, generally speaking now. However, this Seerah, we have a great scholars from hundreds of years. Some of them, they have books that they were... Sorry.
Just a question.
Yes.
So Seerah can be any history, even if it's not non-Muslim history?
No. I'm talking... No. She's asking... Seerah can be even if a history of non-Muslims, narrated by non-Muslims?
That's my question.
No. We are talking about what Muslims, scholars, they are covering, highlighting, explaining, bringing to attention, and somehow apart from the Sunnah. But Sunnah is part of the timeline of the Seerah. Are you with me? And by the way, one of the very interesting things, the science of Seerah is part sometimes of the Sunnah. The first thing so far, is it clear? Look how. Now I have this book of Sunnah. For example, the strongest book in Hadith and Sunnah is Sahih al-Bukhari. In Sahih al-Bukhari, there is a special chapter about the seerah of the Prophet, which covers part of what was happening before he was born. So in this sense, Sahih al-Bukhari contains part of what? Seerah. Because he was talking in a hadith sahih, talking about what happened before the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this could be narrated, for example, by Prophet Muhammad himself, when he said, when I was 10 years old, I went to one of the weddings and I happened to such and such and such. Okay, it was not a prophet, it had nothing to do with halal haram. It was narrated by Prophet Muhammad, but covers a time has nothing to do with halal and haram. Like if Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was describing how he knew Khadija. This happened before the beginning of Islam, for how many years? 15 years. And with me? Now, if we have a Sahih Hadith narrated through a chain covering the time of Khadija before the beginning of Islam, this is part of what? Seerah. In this sense, this portion of Seerah is included inside Sunnah. Is it clear now? By the way, I'm sorry, I know that I'm not in a university now, but wallahi, if this became clear in your mind, your way of classification of understanding the books and the value of what you are listening to. Now, by the way, the majority of you will not evaluate the power of what we are receiving now. No, not now. After accumulating a long series of knowledge, when things are put, it's like what I'm doing now is like telling you that I have 1,000 pieces of Lego, and I'm just using the first piece now. So maybe after 20 sessions, 30 sessions, when you see just the first building of the beautiful castle or palace or whatever, okay, you'll start enjoy. Oh, so I can imagine. Okay, this is very beautiful with this garden. I can imagine this beautiful. Now, if you have some patience, you stay for another maybe 6 months, 7 months. You started to know the books. You can go and read by yourself. You have the methodology how to understand. You will enjoy it now. You'll say, "Wow, Allah." You will feel, wallahi, as if you are watching what? A movie film of the events, as if now you watch a full 4K or full HD movie about events. What used to happen, Prophet Muhammad was talking, the battle was, in the process, what used to happen there, who was saying, the reaction, the feelings, everything you will feel it when you read the Seerah. Because in Hadith and Sunnah, it's not halal haram. Are they allowed to do such and such? Yes, no. Why? Prophet Muhammad said, such and such. 1 + 1 = 2. Period. In Seerah, it's a movie film. But we as Muslims are distinguished. We do not watch any movie. We try to watch an authentic movie. We do not accept fabricated scenes to be inserted inside the movie. So we try to create our authentic movie, if I may put it in this way. Are you with me? So the Seerah, you will enjoy the full image. You will live. And sometimes you will see yourself inside the scene. Wallahi, I can assure you that this will happen with you. By Allah will happen. Because when you know the details, you start thinking about them, wow. You will start imagining what Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was telling Umar when they were, for example, disputing or agreeing about something, and how they came to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, complaining about each other, as if you are there. It's not just روى Imam al-Bukhari, he said قال عمر بن الخطاب. No. You will have a complete new feelings and aspect. Okay? This is the first point in our session today. Clear? Any question about this point? Yes, Ahmad.
So when did they started using the term Seerah? Because I don't like in the Quran.
When did what? Sorry?
The term Seerah. Like when did they start using it? Because it's not in the Quran.
No, it's not the Quran. But for example, Ibn Hisham, which is the oldest authentic book of Seerah, he was born in 80 Hijri and he passed away in 150. He used this term. But by the way, now okay, he asked when the term Seerah was used. By the way, most of the old references, they used to use Maghazi, not Seerah. It's another terminology. For, sometimes I'm avoiding a lot of details because there is no benefit because of the ages. Okay? So it's not a big benefit to know it, because if I want to explain what is the Maghazi and what the meaning of Maghazi, when they change from Maghazi to Seerah, considering the ages that I'm addressing, there is no great benefit for that. But it used to be called Maghazi in some books. In very early ages, around 100 Hijri plus, some of the great scholars, they used to use it Seerah. Now, okay, right. Now, next point. Why? So as not to lose the context. Right. Now, next point. Why do we study the Seerah? Why should we study the Seerah? Is it for entertainment? Now, do you think our session is an entertainment session? Do you think so?
It's interesting.
Huh?
Yeah, interesting.
But I mean, the intention behind it, is it to entertain? A'udhu billah.
It's informative.
Aha.
It's an information that we need to have.
Need to have.
Yeah.
Why?
Because if we don't know the Seerah, then how can we understand the Quran in its context? There's always
Jazakallah khair.
background to it.
It's a huge question, by the way. Seerah, it's the big timeline that covers the context, social context, political context, whatever context it gives. So when you want to understand the Quran and the Hadith and the Sunnah in the bigger context, it will give you the power how to apply it in your time, your ability of, reapply, recreate, whatever do with this great piece of knowledge will be much more powerful, because understanding the context will enable you to do an amazing job. Okay? This is one angle. Now, let me put it with another thing. Now, I think something, especially those who attend the tafsir session with me, they know it, because I keep repeating it. You know that we believe in Islam. Islam is the religion of Allah. The dalil, إن الدين عند الله الإسلام. Okay? ومن يبتغي غير الإسلام دينا فلا. Anyone who seeks another religion other than Islam, Allah will not accept. For us, Islam is the final result or the seal of the prophets, of a long chain of prophets and messengers. And we did that tens of times. We told you that just very quickly. We believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent many prophets and messengers for hundreds and thousands of years. We know about 28 of them by names. Now, Prophet Muhammad said in a hadith, when he was asked about prophets and messengers, that prophets are more than or around 124,000. The messengers about 315. The messenger, difference between a messenger and a prophet, all of them they receive revelation. All of them Allah contact them through the Archangel Gabriel. However, the difference between them, a messenger is the one who receives a new sharia, a new law with some kind of modifications. Now, the next messenger will have some new sharia. New sharia means some kind of differences in the practical application of what we call the fiqh now. Between them we have prophets. The prophet receives a revelation like a messenger, but he keeps calling the people to the same path of the previous messenger. The biggest example for us, Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam. Musa is a prophet and a messenger for the people of Israel. Everyone came after him except Isa alayhi salam is what? Prophets. Such as Dawood alayhi salam, Sulaiman alayhi salam, Yahya alayhi salam, Zakaria alayhi salam. Are you with me? All of those are what? Prophets. Anbiya Bani Israel. All of them, they were calling for Shari'at Musa. When Prophet Isa alayhi salam and Messenger Isa came as a prophet and messenger for the people of Israel. He came with a new Sharia. طبعا new Sharia does not mean a new, brand new. No, sometimes slight modifications means a new. What is the dalil? وَلِأُحِلَّ لَكُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي حُرِّمَ عليكم ولأضع عنكم إصركم والأغلال التي كانت عليكم. One of the things that Allah told us about Prophet Isa alayhi salam, when he was telling the people of Israel that I was sent to you to remove some of the hard burdens that were put on your shoulders and to make lawful what some certain things were unlawful or the opposite. This is like a new Sharia. So we believe in this. So all of them, they received, all of these prophets and messengers from Adam up to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of them, they came with one religion in terms of faith and values. All of them, they came that Allah is one. All of them came that there is akhirah. All of them came that there is accountability and day of judgment after death. All of them. All of them came with main big values. Kadhib is haram. Lying is prohibited. Disrespecting parents is a kabira. Now is a major sin. All of them. Faith and values, no changing. But they came with different what?
Sharia.
Teachings, Sharia. Yes, with some kind of modifications. The final religion, which contains the same faith, same values, final version of divine Sharia, which is the Islamic law. It's the final fruit which contains all previous things, and khalas. Allah decided to stop sending revelation. Now this is the final message as a Sharia or as a deen, and it contains same faith, same values, different lifestyle or teachings or Sharia. Okay, you need to know this because this gives you an insight about our relation with the previous. We are the final. It's like when they say, for example, one of the famous usage, they say Old Testament, New Testament. We have Last Testament. Yes, seriously. All the new, last. Period. That's it. Finito. Finish the story. If you want to, take it in this way. Right. Now, what's the relation between all of this and the minute of Seerah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ إِنِّي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ إِلَيْكُمْ جَمِيعًا. Now the new thing with the final prophet and the final message, it's for every single human being on earth up to the day of judgment. So, now it contains a constitution for humanity. This constitution is the Quran and the Sunnah. This Quran and Sunnah came in a context with a divine wisdom on the span of 23 years. The 23 years plus the previous time is the general context of understanding the final constitution for humanity. So, any state, any group, any person, any whatever at any time wants to apply to live Islam, he's in need to know the constitution plus the context of the constitution to reapply it again as it was applied. Have you realized how important understanding the Seerah is? It's an amazing, powerful, let's say field of knowledge by بإذن الله عز وجل. طيب. Now, next point. اللهم صل على سيدنا. طيب. One of the things why I was preparing came to my mind, and I think you need to know. The word history Now, from one angle, Seerah for some people is history. This is true. It's history, yes. We have a big fitna in thought here in the world, especially in the Western world. And please focus on this. It's a little bit a rich piece of knowledge. Okay? But if you understand it, it will help you a lot for the future. And for the parents, you might be able to save your mind, the mind of your kids at the school, at the university, not at the school, because most likely this will not be discussed at schools. Now, history. There's a problem happened with Western people, especially with their religion. Most of Westerners historically are what? Christians. So sometimes we need to understand the history of Christianity to know some kind of new ways of thinking regarding religion. Because Europeans plus Westerners in general, when they have an attitude about with religion, mostly their history is about what? Christianity. They say religion, but in practice it's what? It's Christianity, not all religions. They don't have the same equal experience between Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. They have Christianity for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So, now for many historical, many political reasons, إذا بتقدروا يا أخوات اللي عم تطلع صوت البنت الصغيرة تسكتوها أرجوكم، أنا مش عارف أسيطر أركز. الله يجزيكم الخير. الله يسعدكم إذا تكرمتوا. جزاكم الله خير على القهوة. هذا الجواب. على فكرة هاي بحدة ليلي. آسف حجي، والله آسف. الله يحفظ لكم إياهم إن شاء الله. What I was saying.
History.
شو history?
When they talk about religion, they mean Christianity.
Christianity, okay. Now, part of the practical problems of a wide range of Europeans and Westerners against Christianity, be careful. Christianity is a religion. It contains restrictions like any other religion. Haram halal, يجوز لا يجوز, permissible not permissible. Like any secular person who would love to get rid of the restrictions, they will try to find ways from here and there, like just pose on the Westerners now. Let's come to our Arab, wonderful, secular people. Some of them they claim I'm an atheist, some of them they claim I'm a liberal, some of them practically they know nothing about secularism or liberalism or atheism. They want simply just to drink alcohol, they want to commit zina and to have drugs and khamr and shisha to enjoy their life. But they want an excuse to get rid of everyone who's arguing with them. They want to shut up the mouths around them. Are you with me? I'm just trying to explain the psychology behind sometimes claiming I'm such and such, I'm such and such. Now, in somehow, it's my understanding at least. Some Westerner thinkers, scholars, they saw some certain things which they did not like in their religion. Be careful, not in the religion, in their religion. Something they could not accept, something they hated, something they rejected. They came up with a solution at a certain time in a very simple way. They came with something called, have you heard about the word modernism? Al-Hadatha? Okay. Within the area of modernism, which means we want to have a modern way of understanding, in light of modernism, they were searching for a way to get rid of the restrictions of the Christianity. They came up with an amazing solution for them, between them, against their religion, which is called the historicity. التاريخانية. Historicity, okay? Historicity means, it's a theory, suggests that anything you read about the history of Jesus Christ is a historicity. What does it mean, historicity? It's part of the history It's good to know it, to learn from it, to have a nice idea about it, but has nothing to do with me now. This is the meaning of at-tarikhaniya. Be careful. Be careful. I'm talking about something very deep. Is it well? Yes, yes. Did he say it? Yes. Okay, nice. MashaAllah. Jesus Christ. 2,000 years ago. MashaAllah. Nice. Okay, but he told you not to do. No, no, no. I'm sorry. This is historicity. It's part of the history. Historicity means we studied as something happened at that time, for the people of that time, and that's it. Period. I'm not discussing how wrong or bad is this. I'm saying this happened in West against Christianity. Now we have some wonderful, cute, cool Arabs. تعرفوهم? Nice, cool. They want to apply the same thing in our context. When you say, Sheikh, is the Seerah history? Said, okay, history, will tell me, history. Got the point? Nice. I'm not against studying the history of the Prophet, but it has nothing to do with me. It's just part of the history because I believe in historicity. Well, you believe in nothing, Habibi. You know nothing. والله ما أنت عارف الأرض اللي داعس عليها شو بتعمل. You know nothing. But be careful. You need to know Allah, when He sent Prophet Muhammad 1400 years ago, He was not playing games with us. And He was not entertaining Himself, subhanahu hasha. And the Sahaba, when they conveyed the full Sharia and Seerah and Sunnah, it was not for entertaining themselves. It is the law of Allah and the Sharia of Allah, and it contains ahkam, and it goes and should be conveyed, and it's applicable in all times and situations, especially the values. Because this is the amazing indirect way to cut us from the connection with the source of our religion. It's just part of the history. No, Habibi, no. Yes, it was part of the history, but it contains ahkam from Allah, and we had we are so proud that we have the ulama who filtered this, who conveyed this, who narrated this according to ilm, specific ilm. We know what was said, how it was said, why it was said, depending on what is the context, and we conclude from this what? Qawaid, principles, and we conclude ahkam, teachings, haram and halal, etc. You need to know that as a Muslim, this is part of your religion, part of your aqidah, or otherwise, simply, there is no sense of believing in Islam. What's the point? Okay, nice, 1400 years ago, today it's good just to study about it. No. You know about it to apply it, not just to know about it. So please be careful when we talk about history, tarikhaniya, historicity. We have nothing to do with this theory in our religion. Right. Now, next point. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. Right. Now we have something we call مراحل تدوين السيرة النبوية. The steps of how the seerah of the Prophet was written. You need to know at the very beginning of Islam, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam prevented the Sahaba from the Quran. You need to know that. Now, understanding this will solve many problems when you listen to the enemies of Islam when they try to spread doubts about Islam. At the very beginning, please focus on this. The very beginning of Islam. Now, Prophet Muhammad is a human being. Plus, he is a prophet. Plus, he receives a revelation from Allah. The revelation is Quran. His commandments as a prophet, Sunnah. his point of view as a normal person living in other things has nothing to do with halal or haram, is a normal Muhammad as a human being. Now, at the very beginning, the style of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he says this is right and wrong, he was a little bit afraid that they might be confused with the word of Allah and to mix it with his own words. So therefore, at the very beginning, he asked the Sahaba not to write down on any means of simply that you can write except the Quran. At the very beginning, few years, so that to fix in them the style of the Quran and to be able to distinguish between Quran and his own words in the written form. But they used to listen, شو مسمى صوتيا؟ Orally, sorry, yes. Now orally they are listening to the Quran, to the Sunnah. They developed the ability to distinguish between that this is the word of Allah and this is the word of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He was a little bit aware at the very beginning not to mix these two things. Then, after it became clear amongst them that this is Quran and this Sunnah, he said, كنت قد نمعنا في حديث, okay? أمرتكم ألا تكتبوا, but now you can write, okay? Now, so the very, very early beginning, there is no narrations about anyone who was writing the Seerah. However, like many of those who used to convey the Quran, they used to do what? To narrate what they know orally to their kids and to the people after them. Okay? This stayed for the Asr of the Sahaba with some little exceptions, and the Asr al-Tabi'in, and after the Tabi'in. It was not written with a special form of science. You know, after about 100, more or less 120 years, they started to write. One of the oldest sources of written Seerah as a book about the huge work of Seerah is called Seerah ibn Ishaq. He was born in 80 and passed away in 80 Hijri and passed away around 150 Hijri as well. Then, many after them, the most second famous is Seerah ibn Hisham. He did some kind of like briefing for this huge big Seerah, about many 10 years after him. We have a long chain of writers for the Seerah. Now, this is one of the stages. After a while, they started writing, putting the Seerah inside the Sunnah. Some of them, as I told you just a few minutes ago. Now, then it was developed, they started writing about very specific topics in the Seerah, such as Dalail al-Nubuwah. What does it mean, Dalail al-Nubuwah? The signs, the proofs that can be used as an evidences that Prophet Muhammad is a prophet. Now, this is called part of the Seerah and with a special book or Ash-Shama'il al-Muhammadiyya, because sometimes, for example, Awsaf al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which has nothing to do the description of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what used to happen around him from the details, which is part of the Seerah. They used to have a specific books about this type of knowledge. Then, after that, after that they starting writing قال ثم صنفوا في السيرة وصفها جزءا من التاريخ والطبقات مثل تاريخ الأمم والملوك البداية والنهاية. Then the last stage before we have two big schools of Seerah, they started to write a huge book of history. The Seerah is part of it. One of the two great well-known books of Islamic history which contains the Seerah. Seerah is part of it, is تاريخ الأمم والملوك للطبري and البداية والنهاية لابن كثير. This is the great, oldest, most well-known two books about the big history of Islam which contains the Seerah. Okay? Now, in the modern time, and I finish this point with, now modern time, we have two lines of people, and when I say modern time, I'm talking about the last 2-3 decades, centuries. The last few centuries now, we have two lines of those who compose and write books in Seerah. First line, ulama al-Islam and al-Du'a. Preachers and the ulama of Islam who are trying to write the seerah in a way to make you aware of your religion and to follow your religion, generally. We have a long numbers, and I will keep telling you about these books. We have a great books. For example, Sheikh Muhammad al-Ghazali, فقه السيرة. Sheikh al-Buti, أيضا فقه السيرة النبوية. Al-Mubarak Furi, Al-Rahiq al-Makhtub. We have a big number. I will keep telling you about a book. Every time I quote something, maybe I will give you a book. We have a great. The second line, the second biggest composed books. Do you know by who?
Quran.
Oh, mashallah alayhi. Yes, the Orientalists, the enemies of Islam. What? Yes. Now, those who hate Muslims and those who oppose Islam, since hundreds of years, they are writing about the seerah. But why should they waste their time? What do you think? Why?
They can use that against us
Yes?
because we don't know.
Now, to be more accurate, we have two levels. They write for their people to give them the false information like a shield to brainwash them against knowing the true seerah and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Because if their people knew the true Muhammad, what could happen, do you think?
They will convert.
They will convert easily. Wallahi. So one of the most important political, preventive, strategic ways to prevent Europeans from knowing Islam is writing in the Syria by Orientalists since 16th century, 17th century, 18th, hundreds and hundreds of books, which contains an amazing information. Now here comes the interesting part. Do you think everything in these books is against Prophet Muhammad? No. And here comes the trick. Now, some of them, like for example, I will give you a name. Montgomery Watt. Very famous Oriental. Montgomery Watt is a very well-known British Orientalist. Amazing. Write a huge book, Muhammad in Mecca, Muhammad in Medina, huge book. You will read tens and tens and tens of books, mashallah, praising Prophet Muhammad, beauty of Prophet Muhammad. How come? Look what they do. They write a great book praising Prophet Muhammad, but through the whole book they keep telling you that Muhammad was a great genius Arab, but not a prophet. Are you with me? So the youth, their people, mashallah, whoa, look how the justice, how just they are. MashaAllah, they are praising him, talking about him. Well, nice, but he is just an Arab who wanted just to support his people, who wanted just to find a way to gather Arabs who used to fight all the times. So he invented, he was so good person, nice person for his people. However, he had to make a lie. Hasha subhanahu, I'm just telling you what they claim, okay? Because we have kids, maybe they will think this is not reality. No, they used to claim that he was a genius, amazing, management, controlling, strategic planning. However, they used this just to reduce the conflict between Arabs, to gather them. He had to invent a lie to let them follow him. So he invented the lie of the 72 virgins in heavens. Are you with me? Wherever you go, 72 virgins in heaven, they're Muslims. And he told them that if you circle 7 times around this black books, all your sins will kill. He tried to invent something. This is what they write in their books. He was a great, they will praise him, but he had to make this simple lie to gather the Arabs. So now, from one angle, they praised him. The people, they will say how just their writers were. But in reality, they took the most important characteristic in all of his existence, which is his prophethood. He's a prophet. Now, this is the second composite. Now, unfortunately, we have some Arabs who used to face and to suffer from the inferiority complex. Have you heard this term? Inferiority complex? Is it clear for everyone? When I feel that I'm in, you know the word superior, inferior, complex, عقدة نقص. When someone defeats, when a nation defeats another, the one who is defeated, who's weak, if he does not have a clear vision about his identity and he's proud of his system and his religion, he might fall in the trap of inferiority complex, عقدة النقص. So he will think that he is below, he is down, he is nothing, he has nothing. So he was starting looking to the conqueror who conquered him, Al-Muntasir, the victorious. Everything is great from that side. Now some of those people with inferiority complex, they will adapt what is written in these books because it was written for hundreds of years. 16th century, 17th, 18th, not now, I'm not talking about now. It's at the top of the peak of the conflict between Europe and the Ottomans. It was at that time. Now, after, First World War, Second World War, for that the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, Muslims and Arabs, they were defeated, they were controlled. So we have a lot of people, they were like agents for the colonial systems. They started adapting these things and writing the Seerah in light of what was written in the Orientalist books. So therefore, you will find in the Maktaba, Egyptians, Syrians, Palestinians, great writers writing the Syria from a Westerner Orientalist perspective. Such as, fix this name in your minds, one of the most well-known of them, Ahmed Amin, for example. Ahmed Amin, Fajr al-Islam, Duha al-Islam, as an example. He's adapting the Orientalist. Now, for us, Ahmed Amin, wow! And they used to spread his books for us at schools. At schools! We need to no, so he will give you as Orientalist from the Seerah, from their perspective. Okay? Prophet as a human being, but not just necessarily as a prophet who received the revelation. It's an amazing. I will keep telling you the details. I'm just giving you an idea that when we talk about Seerah, by the way, you can go to the internet now, you'll see maybe great books about Seerah Nabawiyya, Ahmed Amin, Fajr al-Islam, Duha al-Islam. No. Wow, great book in Arabic. It's completely by, the spirit is by non-Muslims against Islam. So we need to know such things, that we have a huge amount of books about Seerah, but by someone who does not believe in the general idea of the spirit of Islam. Right. Now, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, we have 10 minutes. Right. Inshallah, if I stay alive, next time, I know, I'm sorry, it's a little bit academic, but I can't start a session without telling these things. I'm not that someone who will just start, okay, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, I will tell you how he was born. When he was born, he said, no, this is not the point. I want to fix and to establish a methodology of thinking about the Seerah and a lot of well-prepared details, okay? So now, next time, inshallah, we will start talking about the period before the coming of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. How Arabs used to live in the Arabic Peninsula. What used to happen? Who was controlling? What was the main mentality and identity of Arabs, the pagans? Where did this come to them? And we will know something about Abdul Muttalib. Who's Abdul Muttalib? The grandfather of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, because there's something very important to know about Abdul Muttalib and Abdullah. Who's Abdullah? The father of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. There's something very important. It contains part of what we will know to know about Am al-Fil. What is Am al-Fil? Huh? The year of the elephant. It is the same year which Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. We will try not just to put the information. We understanding the context of the divine wisdom in preparing the coming of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With my point? Which was Allah, we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is controlling everything. Part of why we believe that Allah is Hakim, the all-wise, the most wise subhanahu. When he part of it we say irhasat, the signs of preparing for the coming of the final and seal of the prophets. Part of what we will know why Allah, to the best of our knowledge, our conclusion, decided to send this final message among Arabs. Because we have some great challenges in understanding. They used to kill each other. They used to fight for a silliest reason. They used to bury females alive. They used to drink alcohol in an amazing way. Yet Allah decided to send this final message to the Arabs. But why? So this is part of the Seerah, to know what are the characteristics that Allah has created among the Arabs. Even though they have these problems, yet they have some other advantages. They were the only group who were able at that time, by the wisdom of Allah, to hold and to start holding the message of Islam. I'm not saying they are the only Muslim, they're to start the beginning. With my point? So all of these things, the relations, the preparations, the divine wisdoms, the advantages, disadvantages, who said what, when, how, we will start dealing with these things before starting with the birth of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In addition, final thing, I will stop now inshallah to make the adhan. Now, part of what I'm trying to do, I'm dealing with about 10 different sources to try to search to the best edited source of Seerah with the most authentic hadith, because we have some books which contains non-authentic narrations that could make some kind of confusion. I will do my best inshallah to the best of my knowledge. I'm sorry that I did not open the room for you to ask. We have about 7 minutes now. I can answer 1 or 2 questions. If they are related, then I will stop to give you 5 minutes. If you want to have the wudu, then we'll finish inshallah. If they have questions, you have? Okay, one question sisters, 1 question brothers, if there is a question, or just one and we finish. Yes?
Is there a book you recommend we read to follow along with you every week?
I will tell you next time, because I'm about to consider one, because I have a good number of them. I'm trying to compare, going through tens of pages to find the most. I have a great number of them, but I'm trying to find the most suitable for this session. So I'm confused between 2 or 3 of them. Next time I will tell you inshallah. Tamam? Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Make dua for all of you, including myself. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum. And by the way, tomorrow we have tafsir session. Tomorrow is the 30th.